On this Tuesday night, the nearly unanimous vote to release the Epstein files. What happens next?
The Epstein files are not about loyalty to any one political party. They're evidence of a crime.
And what survivors are preparing for. Fighter jet fight, what Ottawa wants and why Sweden is courting Canada. Vanished without a trace, the mysterious disappearance of a little Alberta boy.
This is the last place I've seen him. I can't leave. I don't know where else to look.
And his grandparents' heartbreaking message to him. Plus, jubilation in Rider Nation. We'll take you to the Grey Cup Parade along the Green Mile.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The files of a dead convicted sex offender continue to haunt the American president, who is among the men named in those files. Today, the U.S. House of Representatives voted overwhelmingly to pass a bill that compels the Justice Department to release all the Jeffrey Epstein files, and the Republican-led Senate agreed to automatically pass it. It will now land on President Donald Trump's desk. Trump had promised while campaigning that he would release the files, but he later changed his mind, calling it all a hoax. This week, he changed it back again after some of his most loyal MAGA supporters and Epstein's victims demanded it. Jackson Proskow has our top story on the pressure on the president and what happens next.
The bill is passed.
From the floor of the U.S. House, a moment of reckoning. After near unanimous support for release of the Epstein files, a step toward transparency for victims of the convicted sex offender.
The truth has been buried in sealed files and hidden records for far too long.
I hope it means that some guilty sons of get hung, and I hope that we protect some of these young ladies.
President Donald Trump and Republican leaders came to begrudgingly support the bill.
They're forcing a political show vote on the Epstein files.
Only after intense public pressure that saw members of their own party side with Democrats and demand accountability.
The real test will be, will the Department of Justice release the files? Or will it all remain tied up in investigations?
The exact contents of the files are still unknown. Trump had until recently tried to block their release. His longtime links to Epstein were thrust back into the spotlight after emails from Epstein's estate showed he was mentioned frequently.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert.
The president has not been accused of any wrongdoing.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress?
In the Oval Office, he lashed out when asked why he won't just order the release of the Epstein files himself.
You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time.
I beg you, President Trump, please stop making this political.
Epstein survivors say they're tired of the political games. They want accountability, no matter who it involves.
The Epstein files are not about loyalty to any one political party. They're evidence of a crime.
But given Trump's previous opposition to releasing these documents, there's now intense suspicion that the Justice Department may find ways to delay or redact what the public sees. Epstein survivors say they're already bracing for that possibility. Donna?
Jackson Proskow in Washington, thanks. President Donald Trump rolled out the red carpet today for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. The two men talked business deals, including a plan to sell Saudi Arabia F-35 fighter jets, and bin Salman claims he plans to invest $1 trillion in the U.S. It's the first time the Crown Prince has visited Washington since the 2018 murder of Washington Post reporter Jamal Khashoggi, which happened inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. Today, Trump dismissed questions about it.
You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
During the Biden administration, U.S. intelligence officials released a report which determined bin Salman had ordered that killing. Trump called him a good friend and an indispensable regional leader. There is a royal visit underway in Ottawa. The Swedish royal family is visiting, part of a push to increase trade ties between Canada and Sweden, including buying Swedish fighter jets as an alternative to the American-made F-35s. Canada has already committed to buying 16 of the F-35s, but Prime Minister Carney is now reviewing the purchase of any more. And that, as Taria Isri reports, is where Sweden comes in.
The Swedish offensive for a Canadian military contract.
In difficult times, you should really choose your friends wisely.
A delegation from Sweden, including the country's royal family, is visiting Canada and courting the Carney government.
10,000 jobs is indeed a very interesting offer.
An offer from Swedish defense company Saab to potentially set up production of the Gripen fighter jet here. But there's a catch. Canada has already pledged to purchase a fleet of American-made F-35s to replace the aging CF-18s. Industry Minister Melanie Joly wants U.S. manufacturer Lockheed Martin to sweeten the deal.
The industrial benefits are not enough. There needs to be more jobs created out of the F-35 contract. That's clear to me.
The federal government ordered a review of the F-35 purchase last spring after the Trump administration launched a trade war against Canada. Ottawa committed to buying at least 16 F-35s out of a planned 88. The defense minister did not take questions Tuesday, but former chief of the defense staff, retired General Tom Lawson, warns reducing the order of the F-35s, considered stealthier than the Gripen, would be a mistake.
To purchase a fleet of weapons, in this case fighters, that are just not up to the task seems self-defeating, no matter how many jobs they may bring.
Buying a mixed fleet of American and Swedish jets could also be an expensive proposition.
2 fleets, that's twice the amount of instructors that are doing twice the amount of training on different aircraft. This is a political economic risk on one side, and it's a military risk on the other one.
Competing interests as Canada tries to reduce its reliance on the U.S. and arm its military for the 21st century. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
Canada, the U.S. and Finland are planning to collaborate on building new icebreakers.
We face an increasingly dangerous world. And it is important in these times to build on the relationships with our key allies.
Representatives from the 3 countries signed a joint statement of intent today for something known as the Icebreaker Collaboration Effort. The pact aims to increase the coordination of production and research to help renew our aging Arctic fleets. Canada's Prime Minister is looking to deepen international partnerships with a trip to the Middle East and Africa. Mark Carney leaves for the United Arab Emirates tonight, then heads to Johannesburg for his first G20 summit this weekend. Carney wants to double non-U.S. exports over the next decade. David Akin will be traveling with the Prime Minister. David, that may be a tough sell at the G20 because some big players won't be there.
Well, that's right, Donna. This summit is making headlines so far, mostly because of who is not going to be there. The leaders of the 3 biggest members of the G20, that's the U.S., China, and Russia, will not be there. And that has never happened in the 26-year history of this summit of the world's 20 largest economies.
But others will be missing from Johannesburg, too. Mexico's president is taking a pass, as is Argentina's president, Javier Milei. Milei decided to skip the G20 in solidarity with U.S. President Donald Trump, who is leading a boycott of the summit over the false and bizarre claims that a genocide is being perpetrated on white South African farmers.
We don't believe that there's something like a genocide happening in South Africa or anything like that. And I think we've, in our engagements with the American government, made that very much clear.
South Africa has been falsely accused of genocide against its white community and threatened with punitive sanctions based on falsehood. Let me thank the many communities here at home and around the world that have rejected the false narrative and the fear, hate, and disinformation they represent.
The South African president and host, Cyril Ramaphosa, has shrugged off Trump's boycott, calling it, quote, his loss. But some in Johannesburg say the U.S. absence may actually be a blessing.
Look, Trump not coming to South Africa may be the best thing that could happen to the G20.
Imagine him or even J.D. Vance getting up on the stage here and do what Vance has done in Europe when he arrived there and he insulted each and every foreign leader sitting in that room.
And the absence of the G20's major players may create some potential space for middle powers like Canada, like an international player like Mark Carney, to be more influential in shaping the summit's outcomes. Donna.
Okay, David, and the first stop before the G20 is Abu Dhabi. Carney will be the first prime minister to visit the UAE since Pierre Trudeau in 1983. What are his objectives?
Well, I think it's clear that Prime Minister Carney really sees himself these days as Canada's salesman-in-chief. There is a lot of money in Gulf states like the UAE, and so Carney is looking for potential investors in some of the major projects his government is keen to advance. That's ports, LNG, and critical minerals. Donna.
All right. David Aiken in Ottawa. Thank you. While the Prime Minister is working to build relationships overseas, selling his fiscal plan back home to MPs was a nail-biter. Carney's first federal budget narrowly survived a confidence vote yesterday. As Mackenzie Gray reports, there may be more turmoil ahead for the minority Liberal government.
It is such an honor to welcome you, Your Majesties.
It's a meeting that was close to being called off.
We share those values, building our economies.
Mark Carney would have had to cancel on the King and Queen of Sweden.
Nays 170, nays 168.
If his budget hadn't narrowly passed Monday night.
I salute the 170 members of the House who supported it. I'm glad it came through.
While a win is a win, a 170 to 168 vote is tight. But that didn't bother the Liberal House Leader.
The winners yesterday were Canadians, and we're obviously very pleased with the outcome.
Surely this is not a comfortable place to be. You had to get abstentions to get your budget through.
I have very good advice for everyone. If you want to be comfortable, don't enter federal politics.
Mrs. Thomas.
Mrs. Thomas.
But there were major politics at play during the vote. That empty seat is Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer's. But after it was clear the budget would pass, he rushed out of the House of Commons lobby, claiming,
"Yes, Mr. Speaker, I had technical difficulty. I would like to vote no."
The Speaker accepted Scheer and Conservative Caucus Chair Scott Reid's request, consequence-free votes, after 2 Tory no-shows helped the budget pass and avoid an election.
Are you disappointed that it passed?
Yeah, of course.
What's worse, the budget or an election?
The budget.
The day after, the Conservatives not wanting to focus on helping save the Liberals.
Disappointing, of course, that Mark Carney and the Liberals failed to take seriously consultations with opposition parties.
The New Democrats also had 2 members abstain, but they were more direct in their reasoning.
We don't support the budget, but at the same time, we also recognize that Canadians do not want to see an election.
The finance minister calling the actions of the opposition deplorable.
I don't understand how some will explain to their own constituents how they would vote against things that province have been wanting.
Razor thin margins and winning by no-shows is a sign this parliament might not last long. But the Liberals did survive another confidence vote Tuesday afternoon, Donna, this time with no drama, after the latest budget step passed without a recorded vote.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray, thank you. Alberta's government intends to use the Charter's notwithstanding clause to prevent legal challenges to 3 new laws impacting transgender youth and adults. Members of the Danielle Smith government voted to use the clause this afternoon. Smith claims the move is necessary because she says children's health and well-being would be jeopardized if the laws are tied up in court. Alberta is restricting pronoun changes for students, medical therapies for young people looking to transition, and involvement in women's sports. A family still hoping to be reunited with their little boy who's been missing for almost 2 months. Coming up, what the grandparents of Darius McDougall want him to know. The family of an Alberta boy who went missing on a camping trip in September has spoken exclusively with Global News about the day he disappeared. The grandparents and father of Darius McDougall invited our Heather Yoricks West to go with them to the last place the 6-year-old was seen, hoping someone may have some information.
On the banks of a babbling creek, surrounded by towering pines, a once beloved campsite has become a kind of prison for a family tethered to the worst day of their lives.
Les, you haven't left this campsite, really, since that day. Why haven't you been able to come home?
This is the last place I seen him. I can't leave.
Baby. On September 21st, Darius McDougall disappeared. The 6-year-old had been camping here with his dad Dallas, his dad's girlfriend, an aunt and an uncle, and his grandparents, Tina and Les.
Papa Clean was his favorite person. That's what he called his grandpa, so he was just a happy little guy.
According to the family, while the adults packed up camp, Darius and 2 other children had been playing a short distance away.
And they're playing about 100 yards back out in that direction.
And you said the other kids were 8 and 6.
But after about 20 minutes, the other children returned alone.
She's only 8, but she was panicking, saying that he was gone. His grandfather and his father both took off across the creek looking for him immediately. Within, 5, maybe 10 minutes after we were told that he was missing, I called 911.
We'll come and reassess and we'll enter this from below.
What followed was a massive 11-day search involving hundreds of people, dogs, helicopters, and drones.
And what was found? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
The RCMP say to date they have received no credible information to suggest Darius was abducted. But with no evidence that Darius is still in these woods, his family is holding on to hope that maybe he was taken by someone and could still be out there waiting to be found.
If you could send a message to him, what would you say?
Hang tough, buddy. We're all looking for you. We're searching for you. Stay strong.
Where is Darius McDougall? A heartbreaking mystery this grieving family is desperate to solve. Heather Urix West, Global News, Crow's Nest Pass, Alberta.
Tona's law ahead, the push to limit solitary confinement for inmates who need mental health care. After a scathing report by the federal correctional investigator, there's a renewed spotlight on one Canadian senator's proposed bill to change how the system treats inmates who need mental health care. It's named after a woman who spent more than a decade in solitary confinement. She was, as Heidi Petracek explains, eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia, but only after advocates intervened on her behalf.
We're celebrating her birthday.
Senator Kim Pate has known Tona Mills since Mills was 19. The Indigenous woman was taken from her family as a baby, ran into trouble in her teens, was in prison by 21.
Then they created a special cage at the back. It's still there at the back of the prison for women. And once she got into the mental health system, that's when she was diagnosed with isolation-induced schizophrenia.
Now 53 years old, Mills was released to the community several years ago, diagnosed with terminal cancer, unable to do an interview. Solitary confinement was legally banned in 2019, replaced by structured intervention units, meant to allow inmates outside the cell for at least 4 hours a day. But
there are now a whole series of isolation units in many of the prisons.
Last week, the correctional investigator called the current system a violation of human rights, which is why Pate and others are continuing the push for Tona's law.
This regime is failing to do what it was intended to do.
The proposed bill would require any segregation longer than 48 hours be court approved. It would require inmates to be evaluated for mental illnesses and be transferred for treatment to hospital if needed.
What the bill is saying is that folks with disabling mental health conditions need care and support, not further punishment.
At a time when Canadians are concerned about crime and the Prime Minister is vowing to fight it.
With tough new laws, big new resources, and practical solutions.
Advocates say better treatment of inmates is not only a matter of human rights, but in the best interest of communities.
People do better in programs and interventions designed to deal with those things that brought them into conflict with the law.
The motion is adopted.
The last time Pate brought Tona's law to the Senate, it passed there, but died on the order paper in the House of Commons because of the federal election. She's starting the process again next week in the hope Tona Mills will live to see it become law. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
Grey Cup champions next. Nothing says loyalty and community spirit like rider pride. If you want to find what is arguably the most loyal sports fan base in Canada, you have to head to Saskatchewan. Rider Pride is not just about winning. It's about unconditional support through the good times and the bad. And today, Rider Nation is celebrating another Grey Cup win. Catherine Ludwig is in Regina with the devoted Rough Rider fans. Catherine.
Thanks, Donna. Saskatchewan is bleeding green all over the streets of Regina, leading up to the Legislative Building as the Grey Cup is carried by the Rough Riders for the celebratory Grey Cup Parade. Now, this is a big moment for many fans in Rider Nation, as the Rough Riders are much more than just a football team. They are a part of the family. This team is so embedded into the community, being a nonprofit organization and having their team and even their cheer team take part in a wide range of charity events across the province. That's why these fans are so loyal. The Rough Riders are a big part of Saskatchewan's culture, and that's really being seen throughout the Grey Cup Parade. Despite a bit of rain, Rider Nation showed up as hundreds of people got a glimpse of their team and their trophy. The fans were loud, screaming their Rider pride, decked out in Rider gear. Head coach Corey Mays recently told media that he wanted to help create a product that embodies the people of Saskatchewan. And some players shared that same goal, and some fans said they feel like they achieved it.
Oh, it's incredible. Right? It's a community, and you can't really beat community. Community has spirit that is unlike anything. It invigorates a person, right?
We have such a great group of guys who worked hard all year. We stayed first and we finished, and it was even sweeter because it happened in Winnipeg.
The loyalty is something else, and I think that speaks for Saskatchewan and speaks very loudly how we're such a close-knit community, and it's amazing.
The pride and the electricity being felt throughout Rider Nation is undeniable. It's as if these fans were down on the field playing the game with the players. This victory has only reinstated the faith and the loyalty that these fans all share for the Rough Riders. Donna?
All right, Catherine Ludwig in Regina. Thanks. And that is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Your Canada is going global this week. We're showcasing pictures of Canadian pride we've received from all over the world. Tonight, it's a patriotic wood-fired oven in Andalusia, Spain, a balcony in Cancun, Mexico, and the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador. Wow. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride from wherever you are to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.